Our guest is Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. He's written a piece in WorldNet Daily. He's written a lot, actually. It's a very, very interesting perspective. A voice I think needs to be heard. Good Lord, we hear enough of Louis Farrakhan. Why don't we diversify the voices out there that are speaking? His bio says he's the founder and president of two dynamic organizations, BOND, which is the Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny, which is dedicated to rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. Boy, do we ever need to do that. And Bond Action, Inc., a cultural activist organization whose purpose is to educate, motivate, and rally Americans to greater involvement in the moral, cultural, and political issues that threaten our great country. One of the things he's written about is his work visiting prisons. He writes, over the last 20 years, I've been invited to speak and run programs for men and youth incarcerated in correctional facilities in California, Michigan, and Texas. Reverend Peterson, we know that young black men between the ages of 16 and 40, rates of incarceration are through the roof.
Yeah.
To me, it's probably the single greatest cultural issue we face. It affects every aspect of life. Let's first talk about the folks. Let's take the last part first. Folks that are in prison and who's trying to reach out to, who's finding that to be fertile ground for recruiting.
Without a doubt, Louis Farrakhan and his organization. I cannot tell you how many times I ran up against them. And they hate me because I come in and I bring the message of Christ. I talk to them about forgiveness and judging people based on character, not color. And they're in there telling these angry men that Christianity is the white man's religion, Islam is the black man's religion. They're telling them how bad the blue-eyed devil is and the blood-sucking Jew. And they're, from what I can tell, they're very successful in recruiting these guys. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of these guys are felons, and they're very angry. And once they attach themselves to Louis Farrakhan, I personally believe that they would do whatever he would ask of them. And that's why I'm very concerned about this issue.
Reverend Peterson, you said, and by the way, anybody that wants to learn more about him, you can go to michaelberry.com, and we've posted a link to his stuff and his articles and his bio and contact information. You said you yourself were angry.
Yes.
You were susceptible to this message. Why? What were you angry about?
Just as most black men in prisons and jails and gangs around the country, even though I grew up at a time, by the way, I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama, right outside of Montgomery, Alabama, and I remember for colors only signs, for whites only. I went to a movie theater once as a teenager. We were not allowed to sit with white Americans. We sat in the balcony, but that was fine because we had a better view up there anyway. But but not once did my grandparents tell us that or taught us to hate white Americans. They said treat people the way you would like to be treated, and do the right thing, work hard, and you can make it in America. But my father and mother, my mother got pregnant when she was a teenager, and when she told my father about it, he denied it, and she ended up marrying my stepfather before I was born because in those days it was an embarrassment to, have children out of wedlock.
Imagine that.
I know. And so I grew up not having my father in my life, and in my body, in my soul, I wanted my dad, and there was nothing I could do about it because I didn't put it there. Long story short, my mother was angry at him, and she tried to keep me away, so I became angry at her because I thought she was impatient with me and that she was trying to turn me away from my father. And I have to tell you, Michael, the worst thing that can happen to a child, whether male or female, black or white, is to turn them away from their fathers, because when you turn them away from their fathers, they are turned away from God. Whether we know it or not, believe it or not, act it out or not, live it or not, the man represents Christ in the home. He's the spiritual head of his wife and children. And when you remove that man for whatever reason, the wife and children are left over left open for, evil to come in, and that's what happened to black folks. The government came in, became the daddy, and the corrupt black leaders became the head of the people, and that's why they're in this mess. But I was angry at my father for not being there, my mother who tried to turn me away. And when I moved to California, instead of the black preachers telling me that and showing me how to overcome it, they said it was racism. Now, growing up on a plantation, I was never told that. When I moved to California at 18, they said it was the white man, and because they were in positions of authority, I believed that lie. And once you believe a lie, you become attached to it, and they were able to control me by deceiving me that the white man was my problem. But after, I suffered for a long time as a result of that, because when you hate somebody, what you put out come back on you, and you also become like what you hate. And so I suffered for it. And after a while, around 38, at the age of 38, I started to question things. If the white man is keeping me down because I'm black, why is he not keeping Jesse Jackson and his family down? These black preachers with these mega churches and their families are doing quite well, going to private schools. And that's when God allowed me to see that they had fed on the anger that I already had. And for me to go free, I needed to forgive my mother and father for what they had done, because they couldn't help themselves. And when I forgave them, I went to my mother and apologized. I told her that I resented her, and I told her why. And for the first time, she told me what happened to her and exactly what she did to me. Her mother had done it to her. But when I forgave my mother and father, God forgave me, and he took away all of my anger, all of my fears and my doubts. He gave me perfect peace. He allowed me to see in a way I'd never seen before. And that's when I started Bond, to wake up black men, all men, but especially black men, to get them to forgive so that God can forgive them and set them free.
Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, I was an office holder before I went into talk radio, and I spent a lot of time campaigning, and I spent a lot of time in churches that were predominantly or exclusively black, and I found that a number of pastors were personally very conservative. There is a pastor here in town, Kirby John Caldwell, who President George W. Bush, then governor and then president, reached out to him. He led national prayers. He was called by the media the president's pastor. And I saw how he was attacked within his own church. Yeah. And I saw the toll it took on him and his family over a period of years, which he doesn't talk about. But I witnessed it. I saw it. Yeah. And you could feel that tension. And I wonder, I get the sense that a lot of people, whether they're ex-felons or business owners or whatever else, I get the sense that a lot of people recognize the chicanery that is Farrakhan and Jeremiah Wright and Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, but they just sort of go along to get along because, they'll under their breath tell you what they think, but it's as if you don't want to be seen as the guy who's criticizing that.
Well, and I totally understand what you say when you say that they appear to be conservative. The problem is, secretly in their hearts, they hate white people. And I would venture to say most black people secretly hate white folks. And in many cases, they don't realize, at least the congregations don't realize that they hate white people. They feel justified in that hatred because they have been reminded of the past over and over and over again, and they don't realize that they are being reminded of the past by poverty pimps and race hustlers who are using them for their own personal gain. And that's why you don't see most Christians, black Christians, standing up when the issue is black on white, because there's a sense of a joy about it. They think that they're getting back at the white man. We saw that with O.J. Simpson trial. We are now seeing that with Barack Obama. 82%, according to the polls, 82% of black Americans, in some cases 90%, still agree with Barack Obama. And if you criticize him, you are a racist, you hate him because he's black. This is what they say. And if you're a black person such as I am, you're called Uncle Tom and sellout and the so-called N-words. You're threatened because they identify with him based on color and not based on character. And that's, once again, why I'm trying to get them to examine themselves, and they would see that they are hateful, that they have racism they feel racist toward white folks, and it's not white people feeling that way toward them. And I have to tell you, Michael, there is no way on earth or in heaven that you can say that you believe in God, and God is love, that you can believe in God and hate the white man. You can't hate when you have love, when you are of love. And even though they go to church, they hoop and holler, they carry on, they read the Bible, and some of them are nice people, they are not connected to good. They are not connected to truth. They know about it, but they don't believe in it. They believe about it. And that's why they're not taking stands on these moral issues like abortion and out-of-wedlock birth. There's a report came out the other week.
Reverend Peterson, can you hold with me for a moment? Can you stay through the break?
I'm sorry for going on.
No. I appreciate what you say. If I wasn't enjoying it and learning from it, I'd cut you off. So you keep talking. Hold with us for just a moment. Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. All his contact information, if you want to learn more or reach out to him, is posted to the blog at michaelberry.com. We're going to talk about how we solve this problem. Well, first, how bad it is and how we solve this problem. Coming up.